Today we are going to start by grading our homework from last night, which should have been 5-9 word problem practice, dividing fractions. So today I'm giving a couple different points options here. So first you can make sure that you see what problem I came up with that I solved and check your multiplication. So if you get something wrong, you're looking, did I set up the problem wrong? Did I forget to flip the second fraction? Did I write something wrong when I rewrote the problem? Or did I write the wrong basic fact here? So for number one, if you got 9/60ths, that's worth 1 point. That should have been simplified, and if you simplified it to 3/20ths, that's going to be worth 2 points because that's a great answer. And then if you wrote the answer statement here, that's also worth a punch. Each person gets 3/20ths of the pizza plus 1. Number two, same type of deal. You can see which problem I started with. You can see what I decided to multiply together. The best answer is 5/24ths. So that is plus 2 points. And if you wrote an answer statement such as each board will be 5/24 feet long, that is plus 1. If you did the problem backwards, you didn't set up the problem correctly, and you got 4 4/5 feet long because you did 3 pieces divided between 5/8. You should have been thinking about that. How could each piece possibly be 4 4/5 feet long when the board itself started out at only 5/8 feet? So make sure that you're always thinking through these problems. Number three, a good answer is 15/1 plus 1, but you should recognize anything over 1 is the whole number itself. So plus 2 if you said 15, plus 1 if you wrote an answer statement such as there are 15 servings in 5 cans. Again, with that answer statement, if you flipped the fractions and you divided them incorrectly, that should have alerted you that you did something a little wrong there. Number 4, it should have been 1 6/4 is an okay answer, plus 1. 1 2/4 is an okay answer, that's plus 1. And 1 1/2, if you've got that final answer, that is worth the 2 points because that's the best answer. And the answer statement is worth 1, such as 1 1/2 times as much ice cream as Julia, or Mark ate 1 1/2 times as much, something along those lines. It doesn't have to be exactly word for word what I have. Number 5, the best answer is 1/12 of a pound. That's plus 2. Your answer statement, each bundle will weigh blank of rosemary, blank pounds, plus 1. For number 6, if you did 3/20ths plus 2, answer statement of an hour for each problem, plus 1. Oops, can't see that. 3/20ths of an hour or some kind of label there with your answer statement, that's your plus 1. If you figured out that 3/20ths of an hour was 9 minutes per problem, that's worth an extra punch today. You can give yourself a star and then ask your teacher for a punch. Number 7, plus 2 for 1/6. 1/6 is the best answer. Plus 1 for your answer statement. Each person gets 1/6 of the cake. Remember, on this one, it had to be a fraction divided by a fraction, so you needed to put 3/1 first and then find its reciprocal. Flip that second fraction. For number 8, this one was a tricky one. Hopefully you used the setup of number 4 to help you. This one was blank times 9/100ths equals 3/4, so how many times more? Another thing I think about when I'm setting these up is when this is a multiplication problem here, I know I need to get a bigger number out here. So between the two of them, I know my bigger number's out here, and then my smaller number has to be the thing that's being multiplied. So then that means the bigger number is my first number in this division problem, in this context. So then 25/3 is an okay answer. You can have plus 1 if that's the only answer you gave. The best answer would be 8 1/3 plus 2. And then your answer statement is plus 1. If you got 8 and 12/36, you were on the right track. That's a +1. You just needed to simplify even further. So count up the points. There are 8 problems and 3 possible points for each problem, which gives us a total of 24 for the entire thing. If you got all 24 correct, it is worth a punch today. Ask your teacher for a punch. Here is your code, MP or E. As always, make sure your name and number is on your page, and then turn it in to your teacher. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to use our math notebooks. So you're going to need your math notebook out. While you're getting materials out, you can also get out a sheet of notebook paper that is not ripped out of your math notebook, but is taken from your binder. This would be a good time that if you're out of loose leaf paper and you have some in your classroom, in your book box, or somewhere else that your teacher put it, this would be a good time to refill that. So you need your math notebooks out and a sheet of notebook paper. Push pause until you have those materials together. Okay, today you are going to be taking some notes, so just turn to your next available page, and at the top you are going to say dividing mixed numbers. So we've touched on some of these. I just wanted to make sure that we kind of go through it explicitly and we really understand how to do it. So if we had a problem like 1 2/3 divided by let's go 1 1/5. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say, oh no, I need to divide. And please write anything that I write on your paper as well. I need to divide a fraction by a fraction. Remember, we added some stanzas to our song. So if I need to divide a fraction by a fraction, a mixed number is not a fraction. My first step is to change that mixed number into an improper fraction. Miss Rude taught you the recycling method. I like that. I also think of it as, okay, if I have one whole, that means I have one whole group of 3 pieces. As soon as I hear groups of, I know I need to multiply. So I have one group of 3 pieces plus 2 more pieces. So that means I have 1 times 3, which is 3, plus 2, which is 5. And then what size are my pieces? They are thirds. Just so you have a visual so you understand, if this were pies, this means that I had 1 whole pie, so all 3 of these pieces, and 2 more pieces. That's where the 5 pieces comes from, and then the 3, it's right there. I also think of the 3, the denominator. I personify him as the Terminator. I'm so excited they're coming out with a new movie, so you guys will be familiar with the Terminator. He has a famous saying that is, I'll be back. So I always think of the denominator related to the Terminator, and he says, I'll be back. Because when we're changing to improper fractions or changing to mixed numbers, that denominator stays the same. He'll be back. So it stays there. So I have a fraction divided by a fraction. And please, please, please do not take shortcuts. Make sure you do it one step at a time. Change your mixed numbers first to fractions by fractions. So again, I have one group of 5 pieces plus 1 more piece. That means I have 6 pieces. What size are my pieces? Fifths. So I need to divide a fraction by a fraction. Please don't cry. This is where I'm over your shoulder. Please don't cry. You know the actions. Just flip the second fraction. And this is where you literally flip the second fraction. We find the reciprocal and multiply. That's where you write your multiply sign. So then we have, bring it straight down, 5/3 times 5/6. This is where you do your little happy dance. Woo! Happy dance! Multiplying fractions is the easiest thing we can do. I look to see if I can cross cancel anything because we want to keep it simple, but none of these have common factors I can divide them both by. Neither do these, so I just have to go with what it is. So 5 times 5 is 25. 3 times 6 is 18. So I have 25/18. I notice that 25/18 is an improper fraction, which immediately tells me that I have a whole number hidden in there that I need to find. So one way to do it is to think, okay, 18, what's close to 25 without going over? That is something of 18 pieces. Well, in this case, it's just 18 because 18 times 2 would be 36. And that's too much. So if I pull 18 pieces out, that means I have one whole pulled out. 18 pieces pulled out of 25 leaves me how many left over of those 25 pieces that I had? So 2 would get me to 20, 5 more would get me to 25. So that tells me I have 7 that I can pull out. So that means I have one whole 18 out of 18 pieces, and then I have 7 pieces out of 18, see that denominator? He'll be back, that I have left. So my answer is 1 7/18. So dividing mixed numbers is very similar to our fractions. It just adds yet another step because we have to make sure that it's a fraction by a fraction. So what you're going to do next is you're going to go to your Chromebook and you're going to go to Socrative app. So I'm going to write that right here, the Socrative app. Some of us used it yesterday. You can get to it by using the circle part on your Chromebook. Once you get there, our class name is going to be Ruoff. Oops. 2015. Then you need to write your name in first and last. I don't care if you do the first and then the last. However, I just need to see your first and last name. And you're going to use your sheet of notebook paper to solve all of the problems. So when you use your notebook paper, remember you need to put the problem number that you're working on, write the original problem. Let's pretend it was 2 1/4 divided into 3/5. So first, need to divide a fraction by a fraction. Oh, I need to make this a fraction. So I would do this. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 more. That tells me I have 9/4 divided by 3/5. So I should see this. I should see the steps. I should see this written here. Then in your heads, you should say, need to divide a fraction by a fraction. Please don't cry. You know the action. Flip the second fraction and multiply. I should see that step. Remember, it should be underneath. I'm not doing it side by side. Every time I've modeled, it's directly underneath. Then I check to see if I can cross cancel. I can, right here and here. Divide by 3 is 1. Divide by 3 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 1 is 4. Then I see that's an improper fraction, so I have to change it. I can pull out 12 pieces here and make 3 wholes, because 12 pieces broken into groups of 4 would be 3 wholes. That would leave me 3 left over, 3 3/4. If you don't like this method, you can also do the part where I picture the 4 trying to hold up the 15 and it's too heavy, so the 15 falls over into the doghouse. And we divide like this. How many groups of 4 can I make out of 15? 3. Subtract. I have 3 pieces left over, just like these 3 pieces right here. That becomes my numerator. My denominator, it'll be back. 3 3/4. So when I come around and I'm looking at your classwork pages, I should see work shown up just like this. Should you get through all the Socrative problems, you may go to Prodigy Game. Have a good day. See you soon.